We literally don't know very much about the ocean. We only have mapped something like 20% of it. We've only seen something like 1 or 2% of it. There could be things hiding out here that we've never seen before.
The ocean is full of things to be cautious of. Even the water itself can be dangerous if you're caught in the wrong place. But what you should truly fear are the predators lurking in its depths. The ocean teems with creatures that not only hunt but kill with terrifying skill and efficiency. From killer whales to a mysterious new predator hunting humpback whales, here are the 20 scariest ocean predators. Number 20. Killer whales. Now, it may seem kind of odd that we're beginning with a whale, of all things, to showcase the ocean's scariest predators. But that's because you're thinking of the wrong kind of orca and not thinking about their name of killer whales. You see, in culture today, orcas are a beloved whale and are the mascot for organizations like SeaWorld, and for good reason. Don't even get me started on those Free Willy movies. They are indeed majestic creatures that are something to behold, when you're on their good side, that is. But the fact of the matter is, killer whales are killers for a reason. Case in point, there have been many incidents at places like SeaWorld where an orca has gone berserk after their trainer and even killed them. So ask yourself, would a truly docile creature do that? I don't think so. But let's take a look out into the ocean to truly get a grasp of what all's going on, shall we? Because out upon the open waters, the orca is not just a predator. It's a rather devious one. They'll use their pack mentality to go after prey and actually toy with them in order to have fun before they eat. Just look at how they go after seals and sea lions. You'll see just how vicious they can be. Oh, and if you really need any more proof of that, I'll give it to you. Orcas are one of the few creatures in the world that are willing to go after the great white shark and win against them. Yes, these entities can take on sharks and pick them apart. This is the reason why orcas are called killer whales. So, while it's fine to love these whales, just be sure to acknowledge who they can really be or else. Number 19. The great white shark. Is there really any other creature that could be put on the top of this list? Well, maybe, depending on how you view scariness. But if you were to ask people in general what they think the scariest predator in the water is, you can likely bet that the great white shark would be one of the most popular answers. Part of the reason for this is pop culture, via things like the movie Jaws, where the shark is the villain, and it's shown to have abilities beyond what sharks can actually do, as is proven by the show Mythbusters. But that doesn't mean the great white shark isn't scary, because it absolutely is. In size alone, the great white shark can grow over 20 feet in length and weigh up to 5,000 pounds, and that's a whole lot of mass for a shark. And when it comes to speed, sharks as a whole are known to blitz through the waters of the world, but the great white is amongst the fastest, being able to do about 15 miles per hour in the water. They'll use that speed to grab their prey and rip them to shreds or to launch themselves into the air, and then slam their prey down so hard that they can't fight back as they're being eaten. Do great white sharks attack humans? Well, yes, but not as much as you would think. Estimates claim that it's only about 10 attacks per year. However, that still means that there are people who will get attacked by a great white, and that's enough to strike fear in the hearts of many people. Number 18. The sea snake. To many out there, when you think of snakes and water, you're likely picturing how they can sometimes ride upon the water itself in order to get around. It's a very common trait among snakes, which includes bigger ones like the anaconda. However, there are some snakes that are absolutely aquatic in nature and prefer the water to the land. These are the sea snakes, and there are a lot of them out there, which is terrifying, not the least of which is that many don't even really know how they operate in the water. But they seem to be doing just fine without a whole lot of help. The reason for all the confusion is that on land, snakes use a variety of senses, which includes a kind of infrared to go and detect things. But that wouldn't work in water as much, now would it? However, they do still get around, and they attack their foes just fine. That brings us to the other scary thing about these snakes, their venom. Just about every species of sea snake out there has a kind of venom, and many of them are lethal to prey as well as humans. Now, to be fair, the snakes bite many times without using their venom, but that just means that you don't know what to expect. Plus, the bites aren't necessarily felt by people, and as a result, you can have the venom within you without even knowing it. And again, pretty much every species of sea snake has venom, so anytime you see one underwater, just be sure to keep a good distance away. Number 17. The frilled shark. If you were to go into the ocean right now, you probably wouldn't expect to see creatures from millions of years ago living in the water. Because between extinction events and the natural pecking order of the world, you would expect them all to be wiped out, right? Well, the problem is that's not always the case. There are actually living fossils, according to scientists, that have somehow been able to withstand the test of time and the dangers of the world to become something that's almost everlasting. One of these things just so happens to be a shark. Of all the creatures that could have come from prehistoric times, we got a shark. Oh, lucky us. Specifically, it's called the frilled shark, a true living fossil, for the very basic reason that it doesn't look like the sharks that we have today. Rather, it looks like an eel but with a shark's capabilities, and that's not really a good combination. But if you're wanting to know why it's one of the more scary predators of the ocean, besides the fact that it's a shark, well, I've got you covered. The frilled shark's mouth is one of the most terrifying things about it. It's believed to be lined with 25 rows of backward-facing, trident-shaped teeth, which is 300 teeth in all, and that's a whole lot, and I want to be nowhere near them. And so we do have a shark that's apparently immune to time and the dangers it brings, and it lurks around the ocean depths. That's scary, and I'm going to stay above water. Number 16. Vampire Squid. Now, you're going to see a few octopuses and squids in this video, and we'll begin by showing you one that's honestly a bit scary just in its name alone, the vampire squid. The vampire squid is an extremophile, inhabiting the dark ocean depths from 2,000 to 3,000 feet. If threatened, this defensive deep-sea Dracula does not eject ink, as do most of its cephalopod cousins, nor does it change color to confuse intruders the way its shallow water cousins do. Living as it does in the deep ocean where little light penetrates, color changing is kind of a pointless strategy. Oh no, instead, the vampire squid squirts a copious cloud of sticky bioluminescent mucus towards would-be predators, which is scary and disgusting. How did it even evolve to do that? Actually, never mind, I don't even want to know. Another thing that's scary on this creature, at least to me, is its eyeballs. Proportionally to its body, it has the biggest eyes in the entire animal kingdom. That's not something you expect from a squid, but it's there. And so, if you do see them in the ocean somehow, you're going to be doing a double take, no doubt. Not much is really known about the feeding habits of the vampire squid. It's a diet that's believed to consist of prawns, copepods, and other small invertebrates, which would make sense because of its rather small stature compared to other squids. But that only means that you'll underestimate it and get closer, and we all know now why that's a bad idea. Now it's time for today's topic. A massive humpback whale recently washed ashore on the coast of Australia, drawing immediate attention from locals and scientists alike. The whale's body bore terrifying evidence of a brutal encounter. Deep scratch marks and enormous bite wounds marred its once majestic form. Marine biologists examining the carcass were stunned by the unusual nature of the injuries. These weren't the marks of any known predator. In fact, the sheer size and depth of the wounds suggested a battle with something incredibly powerful, something larger and more fearsome than any predator typically found in these waters. Speculation ran wild as experts scrambled to determine the cause of these wounds. Some believe it could be a new species of deep-sea predator, one that's never been encountered before. The marks suggest not just an attack but a fierce struggle, indicating that this creature was able to overpower a fully grown humpback whale, a feat no ordinary predator could accomplish. As scientists investigate further, alarm is spreading among marine researchers and the public alike. If such a formidable creature is lurking in the ocean's depths, what else might it be capable of? This discovery has ignited concerns about the existence of undiscovered giants beneath the waves. Number 15. Anglerfish. Now, orcas are powerful and sea snakes are venomous, and both of those are scary. But what about a creature that's truly terrifying, not only to witness but to be a victim to? Now we're going to talk about the anglerfish. Because if you didn't know, the anglerfish is actually called the sea devil by some. Given that its teeth are huge and sharp and that its eyes are terrifying to look into, I think that's a fair moniker, wouldn't you? But it's true. The lure of this fish that has made it infamous in the depths of the ocean is the unique evolution that's actually a protrusion born out of its body. It'll turn the light on just enough to illuminate the area without revealing itself, and as the light shines, a fish will slowly approach, curious about the light and its source. But why? Well, it's because most anglerfish live in places like the midnight zone, where natural sunlight doesn't exist, and thus light, like the lures, is a rarity and easily something that you can be drawn to. So, while the fish are distracted by it, the anglerfish will get closer and then devour the fish before they even realize what's happened. That's scary, ladies and gentlemen. A very interesting thing to note, though, about this creature is that 90% of the time the anglerfish you'll see are females, and they can grow to be 8 inches long. In contrast, the males are only about an inch. But wait, it does get freakier. Because when they do mate, they basically fuse into each other. Are you not terrified? Number 14. The box jellyfish. The box jellyfish is a bit of an ironic thing when you're talking about scary predators because it's one of the deadliest creatures on Earth, as they have a venom that can kill people without a whole lot of effort, and have many times in the past. Though, the irony is that they themselves only hunt small creatures like little fish and crustaceans. So why are they such a scary predator then? Well, it's because they're very good at getting their prey to die so that they can eat them. And while they may not be the best predators in the world, they do use their venom to keep all things that do want to eat them away. It's just ironic because they have a lot of potential predators, and yet they can keep them all from eating them. When you're able to keep predators away with a simple touch, you know you did something right. Number 13. The Redlipped Batfish. Sometimes, scariness is more about what you can't understand than what you can. After all, what do we fear more than the unknown? But that's where the red-lipped batfish gets, well, a bit tricky because there's no doubt that it's a scary thing. But the question becomes, why is it a scary thing? Now, I could say that, like the anglerfish, it's a creature that uses a lure to bring in fish to eat, and that's pretty scary on its own, right? But I could also say that it's because, like a certain number 1 entry, it has no natural predators and thus it survives without fear. That's the kind of scary fish that you want to stay away from. The real reason, though, that it's scary is that it's a creature that has that look and somehow is still alive. Now, seriously, what is this thing? Why does it look like it has lips? And even more so, how does it survive when it can't even swim properly? I'm not saying that this is the platypus of the ocean or anything, but it's got to be in the running, you know? Because seriously, it's just strange looking. Number 12. Hammerhead Sharks. It's taken us almost half of the list, but we've gotten to our first shark, the Hammerhead Shark. Now, most sharks are scary by default, but if you're talking about scary predators, then you definitely have to throw the hammerhead in there. But why? Well, it's because of its head and its eyes. Have you ever wondered why the hammerhead has the eyes placed where it does? Well, it's because that vantage point allows them to see prey all around. In fact, they have a 360-degree awareness, which means that if you're spotted, it's going to find you no matter where you go. Plus, that unusual body shape helps them to be very capable swimmers, and so they can chase you while they keep track of you during the entire event. Their oddly shaped head also houses special sensory organs called the ampullae of Lorenzini, which allow them to detect electrical signals emitted by other animals, making it nearly impossible for prey to hide. Hammerheads are particularly skilled at hunting stingrays, which they pin to the ocean floor with their wide, flat heads before going in for the bite. Additionally, the hammerhead's head shape gives it greater maneuverability, enabling swift turns that most other sharks can't replicate. Some scientists believe this head shape also aids in buoyancy, helping them hover gracefully in the water. Though generally not a threat to humans, their hunting prowess in the wild is nothing short of impressive, and it's good to know they save their skills for true prey and not us. Number 11. The Gulper Eel. There are a lot of creatures out there that have a big mouth, and they can do various scary things with it. But when it comes to the Gulper Eel, it has a habit of making sure that it keeps its prey for a while. You see, it's called the pelican eel, by some due to its ability to have a pouch within its massive mouth, and as a result of that, the eel will grab its prey, then slowly eat it over time, which is a big difference from the pelican, which eats its prey immediately. Equally as freaky, it has an elastic stomach, and that means that even if it does get a meal that's too big for it, it's not going to hurt the Gulper Eel at all. It'll just adapt to it and then continue to eat the thing. The Gulper Eel can extend its mouth to an almost comical size, allowing it to swallow creatures nearly as large as itself, which is no small feat in the deep ocean. When not feeding, it curls up its mouth to a surprisingly small size, giving it a rather odd, oversized headed look. This fascinating creature also has a long whip-like tail, which ends in a bioluminescent tip that it uses to attract prey in the pitch-black depths. Unlike most other eels, it doesn't have strong swimming muscles and relies on drifting with currents, conserving its energy for its next meal. Its eerie, almost alien appearance has intrigued scientists and divers alike, making it one of the more unique inhabitants of the ocean's depths. How freaky. Number 10. Viperfish. Now we're back to the truly terrifying fish because the viperfish is, without a doubt, one of the scariest creatures you're ever going to see, and that's enough to make me glad that I'm just talking about it and not trying to swim in the ocean and learn more about it. Unlike the anglerfish, though, these are known for their very special hunting habits, which allow them to get prey in terrifying fashion. Viperfish are believed to attack prey after luring them within range with light-producing organs called photophores, which are located along the ventral sides of its body, and with a discrete photophore at the end of a long spine in the dorsal fin that's reminiscent of the elusive of the anglerfish. The viperfish flashes its natural light on and off while at the same time moving that dorsal spine around like a fishing rod and hanging completely still in the water. Because of all this, the prey doesn't suspect that they're in great danger, and yet they absolutely are. That's just freaky to think about, but wait, there's more. Look at the mouth on this fish. Type viperfish into any search engine, and you'll find all kinds of terrifying photos of the mouth of the viperfish and how it's a beast of a creature. But you may be thinking, wait, maybe I can outlast them and never see one. Well, that's not really an option because they apparently can live up to 40 years. So no matter how old you are, one of these things is just going to be out there, lurking and swimming around your feet. Number 9. Sarcastic fringe head. Sometimes, it's the need to be perceived as scary that can help change the tide in a battle. Think of it like a butterfly that has a pattern on its wings to ward off predators. In the case of the sarcastic fringehead, though, this fish takes a very different approach to being scary and ends up actually being terrifying. The reason for this is its body type. When you look at it from a distance, when it's not doing anything, it's just going to look like a regular fish with no issues. But when you threaten it, it's going to unfurl and reveal not only its large mouth but also use its fins to make it appear larger than it actually is. After all, these things only average about a foot in length, but because of how its body looks in this state, it's more than enough to terrify any predator that tries to get in on its territory. What's more, the body shift isn't just a bluff. The sarcastic fringehead is a very territorial creature, and it doesn't like being invaded, to the extent that if its own kind tries to get too close, they'll actually have a literal battle of their big mouths in order to see who gets to stay. That's definitely not what you would expect from a creature like this, but it just goes to show that sometimes having the right assets can make you just as fearsome as the big terrors of the ocean. Number 8. Japanese spider crab. When it comes to talking about predators, crabs can be a most interesting thing because, on one hand, we know that they're capable of doing damage to foes via their typically strong claws. And we could have easily put the coconut crab on this list because they have some beefy ones that are powerful enough to kill a bird and, technically, a human being. But if you're going to focus on the ocean crabs, we need to discuss the Japanese spider crab, by many accounts the largest crab on Earth today based on its leg span from end to end. The coconut crab is the biggest in terms of girth. Just how big can these things get, though? Well, their legs can be 12 feet long from end to end. Yes, it's so big that when one of the first ones was caught, it was immediately named Crabzilla, and I don't really blame the Japanese for having that idea. Now, if you're wondering where you can see one, the name should be the clue. They're honestly only found near Japan. Adults are found at depths that are between 160 to 1,970 feet, which explains why fishermen are able to catch them. To be clear, while these things do look scary, they're absolutely the kind of creature that prey should look out for. Humans? Well, they shouldn't be quite so afraid. In fact, they're known to have rather docile natures, and that explains why people can handle them without the massive crabs going berserk. Still, though, you shouldn't test your luck should you get too close to one. Number 7. Fong Tooth. Oh look, another creature with a mouth that's almost too scary to describe. How did we get so lucky? There is some good news here, though. And no, it's not that it's a sea animal only. Rather, it's a typically small fish overall, to the extent that it only gets to be about 6 inches in length. But the teeth that it has are so large that it's proportionally some of the biggest around. Furthermore, when they're adults, they're willing to go after squids with their big teeth, which is not what you may expect from such a small fish. But if you have those chompers, well, then why not? Its teeth are so long that they actually have to curve backward to fit into its mouth, which gives the creature a particularly menacing grin. These sharp teeth aren't just for show, though. They're effective tools for latching onto slippery prey in the deep, dark depths where it lives. Known to inhabit some of the ocean's most remote areas, it can use its oversized teeth to pierce through tougher hides, a handy adaptation for such a tiny predator. In addition to squid, it also feasts on small crustaceans and other fish, seizing anything it can manage to hold onto with its fierce jaws. Despite its terrifying appearance, this fish's small size keeps it off the radar for most ocean dwellers. Lucky for them. Number 6. Lamprey. Behold a true nightmare fish. The lamprey is a creature that's not usually associated with the ocean, as they're typically found in rivers, lakes, and other inland water bodies. But don't be fooled. They can be in the ocean and have been documented as traveling across the ocean at times in order to get to where they want to go. Usually, they want to go get food and devour it in the most terrifying way possible. But how's that? Well, by using their freakier than anything else mouths in order to bore into the item of its affection and get what it wants out of them. That's right, that scary mouth of theirs absolutely lives up to the hype, and the lamprey is mostly a parasitic creature as a result. Now, there are some that are non-carnivorous, but the ones that are literally suck the blood out of their prey without batting an eye. What's more, they're an invasive species that can go from oceans to rivers and then into lakes and other bodies of water just to screw with a local ecosystem. And so you have a creature that's not just a blood-desiring predator but also an ecosystem disruptor, and that's just not cool. Number 5. The lionfish. Now we're moving on to a fish that's terrifying in the right ways and is absolutely something that everyone should fear, even humans, because the lionfish is one of the top-tier predators in the ocean today for multiple reasons. Not the least of which is that they have a venom that can kill almost anything without blinking an eye. Even more so, unlike our previous entry, this fish can be rather beautiful to look at, even being so stunning in its patterns that it can lure in those unaware of how deadly it is, and you can then guess what happens next. But obviously, the reason for its scary nature is its dorsal fins, which contain the venom within them. They cause such an array of side effects that I'm not even going to be able to list them all. And if all of that wasn't enough, the lionfish is also infamous for destroying underwater environments, including coral reefs that house a lot of creatures, including ones that lionfish like to eat. Number 4. Black swallower. Now that's a name that'll definitely strike fear into the hearts of any that hear it. One look at the black swallower and you're going to notice a few things. 1, it has an absolutely freaky mouth, and 2, it has what looks like the beer gut that my Uncle Mike had. Want to guess what these two do in combination? Well, they eat just about anything, or at least anything that isn't over 10 times its own size. That's right, this is a creature that'll go after and successfully eat anything that isn't 10 times its own size. Now, that's a lot of options. Oh, and if it's not obvious from the name, it also has a habit of swallowing its prey whole. Sure, it can use its teeth to bite down on prey to ensure they don't get away, but it actually likes to swallow them whole and just leave them inside its massive gut, just like my Uncle Mike with his beer. These impressive eating skills mean that the black swallower can feast on fish much larger than itself, stretching its stomach to shocking proportions. Often, the swallower's stomach expands so much that it drags the fish around due to its now bloated form. This eating habit can actually lead to its downfall. If it overeats, the fish inside can start to decompose, releasing gases that cause the black swallower to float up to the ocean surface. This floating fish, belly full and all, is a strange sight that sometimes baffles sailors and scientists alike. Its deep-sea diet is so voracious that the black swallower practically defines the concept of biting off more than you can chew. The only question is, what's next on the menu? And that's a really big menu, folks. Number 3. Goblin Shark. Remember the vampire squid? Another name for the goblin shark happens to be the vampire shark, so there are actually a lot of vampires in the ocean apparently, and this one is much more intimidating than the previous, I can assure you of that. Historically, this shark is rather significant due to the fact that the goblin shark is another living fossil like the frilled shark. However, it's one that definitely embodies a shark nature, with 1 or 2 exceptions. For example, they're mostly believed to be an average of about 10 feet long, which is always a good benchmark for a scary size when dealing with a shark because that's much larger than a human. But what's terrifying is that these sharks could potentially be much larger. We just don't know how large they are because they tend to live in areas like the Mariana Trench, and nobody goes down there on the regular. However, the biggest and most terrifying part about the goblin shark may be the mouth of the beast because this is a creature that's able to literally detach its mouth so that it can move forward towards its prey. Yes, you heard me right. This thing has a mouth that's basically like the xenomorph from the Alien franchise. How in the world did this get allowed to live? And if you're its prey, it could keep its distance behind you and then move its mouth to you, and you'd be snatched up before you could even turn around. It's just plain wrong. Number 2. Giant squid. When it comes to legends of the ocean, few of them are as grand and retold as that of the Kraken, the mighty beast that could apparently sink whole vessels without much issue. But the problem is, the Kraken isn't real. However, that doesn't mean there aren't some big squids in the ocean, the biggest of which is the legendary giant squid. This thing absolutely lives up to its name of giant, because the biggest recorded ones come from around 43 feet in length at maximum. Naturally, there are also the fishermen's tales of them being over 60 feet, but that's never been confirmed. That doesn't mean, however, that there isn't one out there over 60 feet. It's just not been recorded by science, so there's a big difference. Now, aside from all of that, what's scary about the giant squid? Well, a lot. For example, when it feeds, it's going to grab its prey with its massive tentacles and slowly bring it into its mouth, which, if you didn't know, is complete with a beak. And once that beak is in range, it's going to rip its prey to shreds. I'm suddenly losing my appetite. How about you? And if that's still not enough, well, there are reports that giant squids at times will get so in the mood for food that they'll actually eat each other. And for the record, there is actually proof of this. While it's not confirmed that it happens all the time, the fact that it happens at all is pretty terrifying. Number 1. Lion's mane jellyfish. While the box jelly is a creature that's a scary predator because of its venom, the lion's mane is a scary predator because of its size and sheer length of the mighty tentacles that it harnesses. And that's enough to scare just about anything that dares to get near it. The lion's mane jellyfish uses its stinging tentacles to capture, pull in, and eat its prey like fish, zooplankton, sea creatures, and smaller jellyfish. And on the surface, pun intended, it doesn't seem all that scary. That is until you hear how this particular jellyfish has tentacles that can go over 120 feet in length. That's right, it's for real, and that means prey can be caught a long distance away from its body. The venom-filled tentacles are not only long but are also equipped with thousands of tiny, harpoon-like cells that inject venom upon contact, ensuring prey has little chance of escape. Each tentacle is grouped into clusters, giving the lion's mane jellyfish an almost net-like reach in the water. Swimmers and divers are also at risk, as even a single, broken-off tentacle can still deliver a painful sting if touched. These creatures are typically found in the colder, northern waters, where they play a vital role in the ecosystem, keeping populations of smaller marine creatures in check. Its sheer size and haunting appearance make the lion's mane one of the ocean's most fascinating yet fearsome residents. Plus, if they were to detach some of their tentacles, the venom is still going to be active, so that's pain despite it not even being anywhere near the source. That's a wrap from the world of ocean predators. What did you think of the ones on this list? Did you find them all equally terrifying, or were some especially creepy? And are there any others you think should have made the cut? Let me know in the comments below. Check out the other cool videos on the screen, and I'll see you next time.